Thank you, Clerk Borling. Well, we're not quite all here yet. I haven't heard anything. Did you, anybody, are they on the way? Okay. Maybe we'll just wait a minute then. All right. Hi. Vice Mayor. All right, well, it's so nice to see everybody this evening. It does seem like it's been a long time, doesn't it? Yeah, it really does seem like that to me. But here we are, and so I'm going to call this Committee of the Whole meeting to order for Monday, January 22nd, 2024. And our first order of business is roll call. Clerk Borling.
Commissioner Cooney. Present. Commissioner Decker. Present. Commissioner Hoffman.
Present.
Commissioner Pradel. Commissioner Wilson.
Present.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Present.
Mayor Anderson.
Here. Thank you, Clerk Borling. May I have a motion to excuse Commissioner Pradel?
He's here.
Is he? He's here. Okay, so he needs no excuses. Here we go. All right, all set. Any communications then, City Manager?
Nothing, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. So this is just a reminder, this is a Committee of the Whole meeting. We do have our business meeting tonight at 7 as well, but now is the opportunity for public comments at the Committee of the Whole meeting. And just a reminder, the public comment period is 2 minutes here at our Committee of the Whole meeting. Please come forward, state your name, and whether you live in the city. And then just another reminder here before we get started with folks who are here in the chamber is that you can call in. Actually, I think this is going to be the last meeting. We're going to be doing call-ins. We're going to be ending that in February. But the number for that is 888-382-9556. So we'll start here in the chamber. Hello. Thank you, Scott.
Okay.
I had you muted, sorry.
Good evening, I'm Katie Bloom, Winchell Neighborhood, and I'm here this evening to submit a petition for the removal of the roundabouts at Chevy Chase Boulevard and Wade Avenue, Chevy Chase and Lorraine Avenue in the Winchell neighborhood. We have over 375 people in the neighborhood who have signed the petition requesting the removal. Our focus for gathering the signatures was within the neighborhood. We have a few outliers who signed, but by and large, it's people who live, work, or have children in the school systems. I was asked by the organizing group to share our recognition that the city of Kalamazoo has many serious issues to contend with: affordable housing, gun violence, drugs, rising numbers of unsheltered, and that we recognize there are neighborhoods in our community that don't have near the amenities that we have. But the quality of life and the property investment in our neighborhood is important to the overall benefit of this and the strength of a community. Because these roundabouts are a pilot project and are slated to be installed permanently if they demonstrate they provide a safe, calmed, organized neighborhood traffic flow, the residents have taken this proactive step to approach with the petition to let the city know of the opposition and why. I won't go into the specifics of why because I've put them into the cover letter I sent you and that I'll submit to you as well. But I think that the main things are the locations are a high pedestrian area. Today a resident sent me a picture with all the snow piled up. There are no sidewalks, no crosswalks. We have 3 driveways that exit directly onto the roundabouts. We have reduced space for the cars, the pedestrians, the bicyclists, everyone who's walking there. The owners of the adjacent property want to have
Thank you, I appreciate that. Is there anyone else in the chambers who'd like to provide a public comment for this meeting? Seeing no one, Deputy City Manager Chamberlain, has anybody called in with a public comment?
We'll go ahead and check right now.
We do not.
Thank you, DCM Chamberlain. I appreciate that. So we are now on to our work session, which is very specific this evening. I'll let you get that started. Manager Wisma.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor, and good to see everyone. Actually, the work session topic tonight is something the Commission holds dearly, and that is the City Commission Initiatives Fund. And our Chief Operating Officer, Laura Lamb, is going to walk you through information on the funding, and then it was the Commission's desire to have an open discussion about ideas of how to use these funds. And so we look forward to hearing what you all have as ideas as well. So I'll turn it over to COO Lamb.
Commissioners, as City Manager said, just wanted to go over some background information to help shape the conversation. Appreciate input I received from Attorney Leal, from our CFO Vicenzi, and our Budget Manager, just to provide some background information. In terms of policy, just to familiarize yourself, allocations from this fund do need to be approved by a majority of the Commission. And important to note that the way that the policy is worded, it has the mayor putting items on the agenda from this fund in advance. In terms of considerations, I think initially, as I understand it, this fund was established as a way for commissioners to talk about priority items and suggest some things going forward that wouldn't affect fund balance over the course of a budget conversation. Current practices that we're looking at $100,000 a year that is allocated to the City Commission initiative funding line. And I also wanted to draw attention that we've had some past practices where we've had funding kind of carry forward from year to year. Really, our standard budget practice is when we have unallocated funding, like to be able to close that year out and release the funds. And so I think what we're very excited and encouraged about is you all having this conversation tonight, the beginning of the year, allows for a lot of opportunity for these funds to be allocated and spent well before the end of the year. Should we find ourselves at the end of 24 with unallocated funding, the intent would be that those funds would be released per our standard budget practice. Also, as a reminder, looking at kind of one-time funding. So as you're contemplating ideas, the idea this is something that can be done within the course of a year that wouldn't trigger any ongoing expenditures. The other piece, good reminder, is that we are talking about general funds. That does trigger quite a bit of guidelines around municipal expenditures. We've got our resident expert here, City Attorney Leal. We won't put him on the hot seat tonight, but we do have kind of worked in that as you all come up with ideas for consideration, to make sure that he and his office have a chance to review any requests, just to make sure that we're compliant with municipal expenditures and finance laws. To remind yourself, based on funding we're carrying forward from 23 and what we have available, we're looking at $191,475 that is available in 24 for this funding. And with that, really, as the City Manager said, want to open it up to you all for discussion. Certainly, we've got staff here happy to jot down questions that we can either answer now or get back to you, field any conversation that we can help with, and see where we might be of help to you in the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, COO Lamb. I appreciate that. So, Commissioners, here we are. I know people have been thinking about it. I know there were already some specific ideas. Anybody want to get started with this? Commissioner Decker?
Sure, Mayor. Thank you. I think a few of my colleagues have talked about this, and we have a nonprofit here called KNAC, Kalamazoo Nonprofit Advocacy Coalition, and they are the owners of the First Baptist Church that's here in the city of Kalamazoo. It's one of the oldest church buildings that is here, and what they have been doing, I think, is terrific. Pretty much, they're recreating the space to be able to remove barriers for local startups and the performing artists. And as we all know, the city of Kalamazoo has many artistic individuals here within the city. And I believe that we should allocate some of these funds to help this nonprofit as they move forward, especially with the development of everything that is happening within that street, and to keep the church alive, or to keep the church there, because I believe it is a historical building. It is something that has been there for a very, very long time. So I I would say something for KNAC. I am just voicing my opinion and how I feel. Unfortunately, I will not be able to vote because I do sit on that board.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. So maybe, just trying to think about how we want to walk through this. If people have come in with a list of ideas, do you want to start with that and just kind of get a list in front of us? So if there are proposals out there, does that seem like a good way to start putting this together? Okay. Who else would like to contribute some ideas? Yes, Vice Mayor? Yes.
I have ideas, Mayor.
I know you do.
Also, KNEC was kind of on my radar, and let's run it by the attorney first to see, but as I was looking through my blueprint for peace, did everybody get that in their mailbox? All three of my ideas fit within the blueprint for peace and advancing that. So KNAC would be under goal 4 in cultivating economic stability, with bullet point number 4, which is increase economic development and access to economic opportunity in core neighborhoods. And that's supporting and to support investing in businesses in core neighborhoods, which I believe KNAC does. So that would be my vote for, not vote, because we're not voting tonight, we're just discussing. That would be my advocacy for KNAC. The other one that I have put forward now for 2 years is the Shop with a Senior initiative, which happens every December, the first Thursday of the month of December, where Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety personnel put together an event for this last year. It was 53 seniors. Senior citizens identified in the community to have a luncheon at Milestone Senior Services, and then to go to one of 3 local grocery stores, also increasing economic development among those local grocers. $150 each to shop for their holiday shopping or their necessary grocery shopping. So that is goal number 3, foster safe and strong neighborhoods for improving government-community relationships to sustain and expand existing community-oriented and problem-solving policing efforts to build and strengthen relationships, trust, and legitimacy throughout the community. And I believe Shop with a Senior has done so much goodwill, and I want to advocate for that again, for the $12,000 that it takes to do that and to put that together. It does say on our, and I've talked about this with COO Lamb, but it does say on the budget that 8,000 of that is yet to be expended that we allocated last year. The 8,000 has been spent, and that was the food actually that the groceries that the folks bought. Their credit cards haven't been reconciled yet. And then lastly, I would like to put out there the Saturday tutoring program at Allen Chapel, AME Allen Chapel. And this is under goal number 3 for support children, youth, and families. And bullet point 5, approve or provide high-quality academic and social opportunities, recognizing the needs of each child and youth. And this is every Saturday. Tutors give up their Saturdays from noon to 3 to provide academic support in core subject areas. They offer additional assistance to parents. They monitor student grades and ensure that students are passing their courses. Also, the tutors offer college visits and tours to interested students. I did inquire about how that might dovetail with the new Saturday school that's coming out in KPS. And Saturday school is grades 3 through 5. This tutoring program is high school. So it does not affect us or affect them. Actually, 6th grade, 6 through 12 is where this tutoring program happens. And they're requesting support for 2 staff members, 10 college tutors who provide academic support for 15 to 20 students on a weekly basis. supplies and light snacks. And that would keep the program running through April of this year. So that's what I am requesting from our Community Initiatives Fund.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. Good to be back with you guys. So in 2021, we had a powerful presentation from the YWCA's Cradle, and where they talked about the one initiative that they started with, which was the Health Reproductive Fund. That is a fund for people who have, they might have limited health insurance where not everything is covered. And community members, and I remembered Kamal stated, like, they have had people who actually work for the city come and receive some of those services, which are free of charge. And so I think this is a prime time for us to really to step up and invest in our health, because we know that the disparities between people of color and white folk is very different. So a part of this fund could be utilized to help more families and individuals that could receive services beyond what their insurance could cover. And the second piece, I'm very excited to bring forth the human trafficking program at the YWCA. We know that Kalamazoo has a huge problem that is not really publicized for various reasons, and some of that is safety and privacy, but they are embarking on creating new affordable housing for victims of human trafficking. And so I would love to see us be able to, given that we have a surplus, be able to allocate $25,000 for the Health Reproductive Fund and $25,000 for the human trafficking program that could be used to assist with bricks and mortar and possibly support services. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Commissioner Pradel?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I apologize, I was running a little late this evening.
All good.
So one of the items I put down, and really with the heart and spirit of economic mobility, was just incubation spaces that particularly are trying to raise funds for creating those spaces currently. One of them is Can Do Kalamazoo. They're in the midst of working on creating that new incubation space that's downtown, but I love the work that they're doing, especially starting with people who are trying to both grow their businesses but also just start them from scratch. And when you think about Commissioner Hess just pointed this out to me about the blueprint for peace even as a tenet, but also certainly one of the top 5 priorities we've had is that economic mobility. I know, Don, you've talked a lot about trying to bring people out of poverty. Well, the best way to do that is to give them the ability to create their own business from scratch and create economic generational wealth for their families. And so both Can Do Kalamazoo, KNAC, organizations like Black Wall Street, I'd be very interested in supporting those types of organizations that are going to help people create something that's going to create multi-generational wealth for themselves and their families. So I wanted to throw that out there. Again, those 3 that I just threw out there, but they're not limited to those groups. But Can Do Kalamazoo and KNAC, I know specifically have capital campaigns right now that they're trying to fill gaps for to fund. And then also organizations like Black Wall Street, I think, do a lot of really great work on that front as well. Another one I put down here was that another way to create intergenerational wealth is to become a homeowner, first-time homeownership. And one of the things that I've heard is an organization, KNHS Home Ownership Services, they really are going to need to really, I guess I don't want to say like double down or triple down, but you think about the economic forces and the tide that's against first-time homeowners right now because of high interest rates or whatnot. Those kind of down payment assistance or gap funding mechanisms for first-time homeowners are probably more critical than they've ever been. But in a lot of cases, sometimes people are kind of like, those are some of the first programs that get contracted when you run into tough economic times. And so I'd love to be able to support some funding with down payment assistance and those sort of types of programs for people, because I know like reading through the criteria is it can't be something that's a reoccurring funding, right? So the things that we fund have to be something that's doing something, but they're not, isn't going to set them up to need to come back to us repeatedly. And so so that's one of the reasons I thought, like say if it creates funding, support for 15 or 20 families to become first-time homeowners, that's something that we can do one time and be done, but it's going to have ripple effects in our community for generations to come. Another thing I put down, and this was just an idea, was that we have done an enormous amount of investment in our community on multiple fronts, whether it be from infrastructure or our upcoming parks plan that we have going as well. And one of the things is, we've been trying to make an improvement on communication, helping people become aware of what work we're doing. And so one of the ideas I had was like, maybe, this sounds bizarre, but work with me here for a second, is kind of almost like a bus tour type thing, where basically what it would do is like, you maybe have 1 or 2 buses and people from, maybe it's public services. And, we would maybe have 2 or 3 commissioners on each one, and then people from our community. And so being very intentional of reaching out to people from different neighborhoods, or people who are maybe neighborhood leaders, but even just like everyday people who might have a curiosity about these things, and allowing us to take and show them the work that that the city's been taking on their behalf. And that could be themed with something like parks or public services or economic development. But I think it'd be really valuable for us to help, like, we're making the decisions about where that money is going, but let's show people. Let's help create ambassadors that can talk about the work that we're doing and why it matters, and point out things that we do that people might overlook, that they don't see. So much of the money that we invest in is money that we just step on or we don't really see. But there's so much to learn and understand about that, and I think it'd be helpful for people to understand. And then the last one I put on here too is just that I know we've had some conversations. I don't know a ton of background about this more recently, but I know that HRI has had considerable costs in terms of storage for the pods. And I know that doesn't sound like a very attractive thing, but in terms of like making sure that project can see it to fruition, something as simple as just helping with those storage costs to get to the finish line could be a big difference. And they're very expensive to store. And so, that was just a thought of something that we could help, where it's a one-time expense, but helping to set something that's going to last out in our community for a long time to go to support people with transitional housing. So those were the ones that I came up with just as ideas, but just throw them out there.
Yeah, Commissioner Wilson.
Thanks, Mayor. So I had an idea for the Douglas Community Association. I don't know if you guys are aware, but last week it was announced that the Kalamazoo Public Library was suspending their service at the Douglas Community Association. And for those out there that are unfamiliar with the Douglas, they provide a lot of services for families on Kalamazoo's north side, along with extensive youth programming. So I was wondering if it would be possible for us to allocate some of those funds to helping to repurpose the space that was previously used for the Kalamazoo Public Library into something. I'm into STEM, I'm into science and math, so if we could look into supporting some sort of STEM center or something that promotes learning, I think that'll be a good use of our funds. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. Vice Mayor? Former Vice Mayor and now Commissioner Cooney.
So these are all great ideas, and I have to think more. But one idea I was thinking about was an account. We've been talking about this for a long time, about establishing an account for children when they're very young. Put $1,000 into an account for kids, but by the time they were 18 or 20 years old, that could grow substantially and would give them a start. And you got $180,000 here. If we wouldn't have 180 kids, but maybe if we put $2,000 into something like that, that would really make a difference when a kid got 18 or 20 years old and needed to use it. That was one idea I had. All these were really good ideas people had. Are the Boys and Girls Club got the money they need now to build that new place? I don't know. Are they okay? Do they need the investment? I mean, that would be a great investment in that if we could, if they were still short of the money. There's so many other things, but I think the difficulty is that it's one shot, it's not ongoing, and so you had to find something that would make a real impact right now, or give the money to a group that's working on some very good things, as you mentioned, both of you mentioned, and allow them to use it for now when they're working on it. So I have to give it some more thought. Those are the thoughts I have. Of course, the other thing is that I don't know if this would fit into it though, is this guaranteed annual income for children that Flint is doing, and that we have been talking to Flint about possibly replicating here. That might be, if we could use that as like matching funds to some other things to get that going. That's my ideas off the top of my head.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Since we put all these out here, I had one more that I talked about with Commissioner Prato. We've talked about this extensively in the last couple of years, but in his organization, he has the opportunity to go into some very low-income houses where they are very low-income homeowners. And the quality of life is just not there because they can't even afford the garbage removal service. What would that look like if we could set aside some money to address those seniors or very, very low-income homeowners and just improve the quality of life? You talk about impact. Going into a basement that is full of garbage, your quality of life cannot be that great. And so that was one that I forgot to mention earlier, but it came back to my remembrance. So that was something that really touched my heart when we had those conversations, and having the ability to help those seniors or very, very low-income households increase their quality of life within their home. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Commissioner Decker, just a question. I know when you initially proposed this, you were thinking about drinking fountains. Is that something that has dropped off your list?
It has not, but we're in winter and we're still going to have more funds to allocate, but I can definitely bring that up. So I would also like to allocate funds for drinking fountains, but I feel that some of the ideas that I've heard here, even though water is what we all need, I feel that some of these ideas that we have here can take precedence over drinking fountains right now. And I'm hoping we don't spend everything in this time, and we can always come back mid-year. And there's also mid-year budget adjustments too that we can look at with these funds. If I remember correctly, we still have a few ARPA dollars that we could move around.
Thank you. Attorney Leal, you've heard some of these ideas here. Can you remind us some specifics about spending general funds and what requirements there will be related to that kind of spending?
In the general law here in the state of Michigan is for a municipal expenditure to be actually proper, it must meet two criteria. It must be for a public purpose and authorized by law. There are a lot of state laws that authorize cities to spend money in different manners, which if you find that law, it answers the public purpose as well. So for example, the cities can spend money on fireworks for July 4th, New Year's, Labor Day, because the state statute says you can. The public purpose is met. There are other provisions, like in the Home Rule Cities Act, that allow cities to spend money for certain types of health-related, mental health assistance, which is there, which then, again, would answer the question. The harder ones are those where there isn't a state statute out there, and then we have to basically look at the few court cases that we have to try to determine, is it authorized by law, and is it for a public purpose? So one of the steps that we will do with staff, when we've heard a lot of really good ideas here tonight, you'll probably get an email or a call to kind of get some more facts. If it's not obviously clear, some of the things I've heard tonight, there is a state statute that authorizes that. Others, I'm not aware of one, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So we may have to contact you to get some more facts to make that decision, or I should say, our interpretation to then relay to you to see how you would want to do. I do want to caution that the state law, the constitutional mandate that we have, only applies for city-level expenditures under state, using city funds and state funds. Federal funds is a different thing. So ARPA is much more permissive in the use of funds. So some of these, you may have a program, and I think somebody just raised it about using ARPA dollars that might be able to be used. That's an entirely different analysis. It has nothing to do with what I just said. So I just want to caution you that some of your ideas may be eligible for federal funds and not necessarily state funds. I will also be I will try to put out a framework to kind of help you guide what is, how the state considers or explains municipal expenditures. In fact, there's one right now on MML's website that you can go on it's a fact sheet page that they have under publications, and there is a couple of topics on municipal expenditures, and it lists a lot of different examples of what is permitted under a state statute and those things that aren't. So I think that's very helpful, at least to get a basic background in this. So that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, Attorney Leal. So I will, since it seems like we're making a list, I assume that we are keeping track of all these items here. I came up with 17, I think, when we were going through this. One of the kinds of things I would also like to include on our list are things that are city responsibilities that no one else will do outside of us, not something that some nonprofit might fund or that sort of thing. So are there things that literally fall 100% to the city? For example, we're talking about putting bathrooms in downtown. I know we're talking about doing two. Do we have enough money for that, making an adjustment? So, that's city infrastructure kinds of things. I know this isn't a great amount of money, but are there specific places where we don't have sidewalks, where it would be important to have sidewalks in our sidewalk plan? Once again, that's something only the city does. Only the city's going to put in sidewalks or put in downtown bathrooms. Or are there some neighborhoods or streets? I got a lot of information from a couple of our building block sites where they were really, really requesting some speed bumps, and no one else puts in speed bumps but us. Are there places where we've just been telling people, maybe we've redone your street, we don't have any money for speed bumps there now, maybe in a couple of years, and maybe this would give us an opportunity to do some of those things. So that is something else I guess I'd just like to think about from my perspective is, are there investments that can be made that will have a long-term benefit that are tied very specifically to the work of the city? And at this point, so there's that, and of course that could be maybe a list of things that the administration might look at a little bit from my perspective. So seeing all that, it looks like people are talking through, there's we're talking about 191,000 altogether, and we're talking about maybe 25 or maybe 12 for Shop for the Senior, those sorts of things. So this could end up being a list that has got many items on it. And maybe at this point, if those folks who have expressed some of these ideas kind of throw a number at that, so then we'd have on our list not only the item, but a number we're thinking about related to that item. So we could start, then we could have our attorney look at that and maybe say, hey, for example, I don't think we can make a contribution to a capital fund for a building owned by somebody else. I know that we went through some very specific arrangements with Boys and Girls Clubs so we could help, but we weren't just writing a check for their fundraising campaign, right? But it was something where we were investing, but there was a public purpose that we were getting for that investment that could very specifically be tied to that investment, Boys and Girls Club. So maybe once we put that list together, those kinds of things, and try to get some numbers, then we could say, hey, what seems absolutely clear, I'm really having some concerns about whether we could do that this way or not. And then we could come back and look at what those things are and talk a little bit about that in terms of allocation. Commissioner Prado, you have some thoughts on that?
I think another kind of philosophical question is, do you want to help many things with a bit, or, really knock one thing out of the park, So like, you gave the example of Douglas, say, just as as an example, like say, maybe everybody decides, hey, we're going to give $15,000 to each initiative somebody wanted to fund, or, hey, maybe we decide like it'd be more of an impact to do, the whole funds towards one project like that, so, but the tricky part about that is just coalescing 7 people with everybody's ideas around one idea. But that's just something to think about as well.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you. I just would like to say, too, when I think about this commission fund that we have, $100,000 is not a whole lot of money. And so when I think about sidewalks, when I think about streets and those kinds of things, those are things we need to be more intentional about in our general budget when we get it from the departments. This fund, I feel like we have the opportunity as human beings and as a commission to really touch people's everyday lives and not look at the bigger picture, but really a lot of saying, we see you, okay? We want to help you. It's not a lot, but we appreciate you, and we want to show that, so that human connection, and that will be part of our relationship building with community as well. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I appreciate that. Related to that, I know we have ongoing problems. For example, we have a roof replacement program, which we help fund, correct? And some furnace replacement programs, which we help with. So that is something, me not being directly involved in those things, I don't know whether we get 20 applications and we're only able to, to do 10 roofs, that sort of thing. So there's some other specific things where we have, you're talking about direct, impact for folks' lives. That's some other information I don't have. What is something that's kind of infrastructure, we're funding that, and, there are just much more need than we are currently able to assist with. Yeah, Manager Ritzman.
Well, thank you. Great ideas, great discussion. One thought is that I have is, what about going through that list first and determining what isn't appropriate before putting dollar amounts on them? Because you have a dollar amount for Douglas, and then it's not, it doesn't fit the purpose, so that dollar amount's out there. So do that screen first, and then come back with those that are eligible and have, dialogue about how much to fund then.
Commissioner Prato.
One tricky part I could foresee, though, is that, some of these things might be like capital campaigns that outwardly you might want to support, but again, kind of like the Boys and Girls Club example, there might be examples where you can still support organizations through the work that they're doing, maybe, if it aligns with something tied to existing work that we're doing as a city. So it might be helpful to see, like, if you're given the example about Douglas, there might not be a capital campaign per se happening, but maybe there's a way where we are doing existing programming through Parks and Rec or something where that space could be utilized for work that Parks and Rec is doing. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. So it might be helpful to know both. And
yes, Commissioner
One thing
Cooney.
I've been concerned about is the water and the sewer rates going up. And we do have a fund for that. I don't know if that's adequate, because there are certainly going to be people that can't pay for that increase. And if we set a fund to supplement some of the other funds that are out there, I think that would be a way of directly touching people, because I think that's what we should be doing.
All right, so Manager Ritzman, you had proposed this idea of, should we screen first before we put numbers to it? Little nuance to that. How do we want to move forward here? Would we like to wait for our attorney to kind of screen through these things and give us some feedback? Would that be helpful, and then come back to us with that?
Yes, that would be perfectly fine.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Are we comfortable with that, taking that time frame to do that? Commissioner Hoffman? Okay. Okay. And so what would the time frame be on that? How would we try to move this forward?
I think I'm looking at your faces, and it's the same expression yesterday. We will try to work with staff as quickly as we can. Realistically, we probably will need a couple of weeks at least to be able to contact on. You all have very busy schedules. In case you have any follow-up questions, that probably will take the most amount of time. But I'll have the staff, and then I'll work with management staff as well, and trying to get you answers as quickly as possible.
Yes, Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask Attorney Leal, what was the name of where we can go on the MML page again?
I'm on it.
If you can just email that to me, that'd be.
It's mml.org, and then under the top, resources and research, publications, and then on the jump to screen on the right, there's fact sheets. You click that, and then you go down to
You follow along on that?
municipal expenditures.
Okay, good for you.
Thank you.
Yes, Vice Mayor Hess.
So, City Manager, this is kind of like, sitting on Santa's lap and wanting to do some things here. So next steps are, do you have an appropriate list of everything that's been mentioned here this evening?
Yes.
Do we have that, Laura? Of course you do.
Yes, we do.
Of course you do. Okay, so you have that. And then, because we are not deliberating outside of the Open Meetings Act, what is our next step?
Well, thank you for that question. I was going to suggest we do have a committee of the whole meeting on February 19th. Our first meeting in February, committee of the whole, is already spoken for, but we could come back with that list to the 19th, obviously get it to commission beforehand so you have time to think about it and all that, but be prepared then at that point to go through the list knowing that they've already been vetted and start, making some decisions perhaps.
You're already doing the research there, Commissioner Decker? Yeah, I know that. All right. Anything else? I think we've done this initial work at our first step. We're going to plan for that. That should give you enough time. Administration, anything else you need to help with this? Questions? Clerk, okay.
Was an action you took in November to look at supporting funding for transportation of youth, something that our department has expressed. Originally, you had allocated $30,000 from the City Commission Initiative Fund. As we've learned from staff, it would appear that it's probably more in the ballpark of $65,000 for a van that would actually be adequate and appropriate and have a long life. So just as you're contemplating your ideas, if there was that initial desire to support youth transportation, you could contemplate adding to that amount to be able to buy a van as part of your future conversations.
So the amount is, there's already the 30 is set aside?
So it'd be an additional $35,000 is the estimate that staff has currently come up with based on comparison of pricing.
Okay. Thank you, COO Lamb. Appreciate that.
To be clear,
Commissioner
I see a
Decker.
couple faces. There are cheaper vans available, but staff is contemplating what it is to have a van that could be long in life as opposed to right now for a couple of years and what that means in terms of operating and maintenance. So certainly that's all for your consideration. If the direction back is, that's the amount, we can adjust and look at what that leaves us with. But I just wanted to make sure you were aware that the action taken in November, right now we're on hold pending the availability of future funding, or that is the budget amount.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Are we all set with this then? Okay, super. So just a reminder for anyone that's tuning in, we do have a business meeting. It's a big business meeting, and we're doing two big things together here. We have a budget, which we're looking at approving, and we also have our special community celebration and recognition for outstanding youth. And we have quite an agenda there. It happens at the beginning of the meeting. So I'm hoping the weather is not keeping people from this event, but looking forward to that. That starts at 7. And just a reminder, there will also be an opportunity for public comments at that meeting as well. We're adjourned.